am I crazy? Did you not do a Mike night or something like that at Zany's? Tell me about that.
It was horrible. It was early '90s. That's where comedy went to die. It was the early '90s. It was horrible, and it was a Monday. I think it was January on a Monday, open
Oh,
mic night, and I decided that day to do it. It was horrible, and if you want to feel how lonely you know you can be, try standing up on stage. And this is when you can smoke, of course. And so all it is just bright lights, just a big giant fog, and you can see silhouettes of the front row. And what I say about that, I might bomb really bad. I always say that I bombed so bad my house is still getting egged, and, and that is funnier than anything I said.
that night,
Yeah, it was horrible.
that
Um,
afternoon, whenever your stand-up was.
Today,
Oh,
but
man.
yeah, I prefer if nowadays if I can shoot with a little bit of humor, it just feels better to shoot something like that because it's more me, it's more my sensibility. Um,
And
you know,
honestly, that's what's happened. If you look at your portfolio, this a wonderful amount of humor has emerged from your portfolio, which has always been there, but it's always just been on you, and now it's actually showing up in your work, and that's the thing that I really, really love, and I cannot stress enough to other people watching is if people are always like saying this isn't personal, this is business, and I'm like, no, it's personal. It needs to
it's
be
very
personal.
personal because you're
It
selling
needs to be
yourself.
personal. What? What?
You're selling yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and what separates you from the pack? I mean, yeah, your technical skills may be great, your knowledge of lighting, some of your ideas, are going to be really good. I always say that's the two things that usually, but it's always going to have something to do with your personality, and it's always going to have something to do with your ideas. And I'm just loving the stuff that you're doing right now, and I'm super excited about it. I hope you are too.
I am. Thank you.
Uh,
Just don't send me a text after this taking all that back. JK, send. Don't do that.
you know what you can't see below the camera?
Fingers crossed. Two fingers. That's a wash. Sorry, pal.
but
What's funny though is that I got the idea to photograph comedians from you
how
because
so?
we photographed Jim Gaffigan.
Hmm.
I'm like, because I was so amazed that you just sent him a message and somehow you guys had a back and forth going, and that
It's easier to
was
get somebody on the way up, and a lot of times on the way down. You know what I mean? Like if you want to improve your portfolio at all, it's not a bad thing because everybody needs photos. You do have something to negotiate with, and that's always the way to look at it is that what you have, your ability to ideas and photography itself is negotiating. Is you
yeah.
can always get shoots with people, and that's what it was with me and Jim. Like he didn't have any. He didn't have any great photos at the time. I mean, he was doing all this stuff himself. Like one
Well,
cover for Breakfast.
he still doesn't have good photos.
Well, he's
I
got
mean,
more people. He's around higher. He's up here now, and he's around better people that can do this kind of stuff for him. He's so
well,
famous now. He doesn't. He can get whatever he wants whenever he asks it. But back then, he didn't have that kind of leverage. And when dude, one of his album covers is literally him praying over about 50 hot dogs, and and it's a really great idea. But the photography looks like something you did with your Instamatic camera, and it was
uh,
horrible. And I
uh,
told him, I was like, dude, please let me do some of your photos. And so he was like, hey, I'll be in Nashville. And so up until that moment, up until us meeting at Zany's in Nashville to do that shoot, we were talking all the time. He would go on Conan that night when he was doing Beyond the Pale, early days when he
yeah.
was workshopping Beyond the Pale, and he was, what did you think? How did that do? How did that last joke land? What were you? Did you have any? Do you think like it was? Did this one hit? Did it not? And I think I kind of harped on him about the little side voice that he does. I used to tell him I didn't like that as much. Like I would tell him what percentage to do it. And I know Jeannie, his fiance at the time, now wife, was saying the same stuff. Because man, let me tell you something. Somebody did not get better than that guy when his wife showed up. She streamlined him. She made him better, edgier, just a better version of himself.
Mm.
His comedy went when she met him, unbelievable.
And that's what I like about comedians, is the fact that they are their own managers and publicists and marketing directors. So you can go right to them. but like you said, Jim Gaffigan was on his way up at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you could have shot Adam Ant at the same time, because Adam was on his way down.
Yes.
He's been descending for years.
Still is.
But when someone is at the height, that's more steps to get to somebody. But I've always used you shooting Gaffigan to inspire me to contact these other comedians. Like when I photographed Adam Conover at Zanies, I was nervous because for years you've been talking about how small the green room is at Zanies, and I expected a shoebox,
Yeah.
and I got there and the thing is bigger than my first house. I mean, I'm like, this is fantastic, right?
And for those of you who don't know, Adam is from Adam Ruins Everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic shoot, by the way. Again, man, I wish I had these at the bottom. Next time we'll do one of these. Right before we go on, you text me 5 images, and I'll have them sitting there right at the bottom, ready to go.
I will do that. But what's the thing is, he was propless. I had really no ideas, and I contacted him, and he agreed to photos immediately, and I had almost no time to prep. I had a wedding to shoot that day. I shot a wedding and left, came home and showered, kept sweating, and then went to Zanies up the road.
Did you take props with you, or did you guys just make it up?
No, he just was very expressive. I had an idea because he wears glasses to go to Walgreens and go grab some colorful readers and have them stacked. Have them
Yeah.
But I'll use that the next time I photograph somebody with some glasses.
One of the other comedians that you did work with, and it's Dan Cummings, right?
Dan Cummins.
You went by, you got the props for that.
I went to the Bowling Green, Kentucky. By the way, he was playing in Columbus, Ohio, at the Funny Bone, and I had to shoot in Columbus that weekend anyway. So I went to the comedy club website. I'm like, hey, I know Dan. I'll contact him. I'm in town anyway, Dan. Let's take some photographs. He's like, I'm totally down.
That's so cool.
And then my shoot got canceled.
Mm.
I'm like, well, I'm not going to cancel on Dan.
Yeah.
So on the way up, I stopped in Bowling Green to get my son. He was going to assist me.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Five Below, and I just went up and found some crappy Chinese-made toys. Grab this, grab that, grab that. So when we got there, by the way, the green room at Columbus Funny Bone is how I imagined the Nashville one, the way you described me. But it's right behind the kitchen. It's actually a glorified pantry.
Oh.
So anyway, I just took some great shots of him. He's very expressive. He's got that slick hair. He's got some beard wax, everything's great. But before we got him down on the stool, I had my son take all those toys that we got at a Five Below and just lay them out.
Yeah.
Don't even mention them. Just put them right there where he has to see them.
That's so smart, not mentioning him, because a lot of times you're already, on someone's time and you're asking a lot and all that kind of stuff, but just laying them out on the table.
So he knows they're there.
He knows they're there. You're not pushing anything else on him.
Not at all. So I told him, hey, Dan, why don't you just play with some of these toys? Whatever you do, I will shoot you.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. So he grabs they're called magic hands, little tiny baby hands. They're little freaky. What's magic
is terrifying.
Me not vomiting. That's what's magical about them. But the little hands are about this big.
Yeah.
With little sticks on them. Man, did he go to town. Luckily he was wearing a long sleeve shirt where he just grabbed the handles and pulled the sleeves over.
Yeah.
He picked 2 out of the 3 toys. The third toy that we didn't use was a headband with Christmas lights because we shot it in November of last year.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't touch that. That one was still in the box. But we had little hair clips. And
like the little,
Yeah, and I actually have a behind-the-scenes shot of him applying the clips to his beard.
Wow.
And I'm very happy about that shot. I sent him a picture of Adam Conover, Ron Funches, who I photographed just a month earlier.
Love Ron Funches. Right before the David Spade show went out, everything went out, but he was a guest on there constantly.
Love Ron Funches, and he was so accommodating.
Yeah.
And again, the idea that I don't know if it was yours or mine. It doesn't matter. It was well executed. I don't care who takes credit for it. Mm-hmm. But we had discussed him chasing a straw because nothing's more awkward you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, and you're like, "Give me
Trying to
that
look
fax right
around
away,
and stuff.
Johnson." Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. And
So,
I'm glad that you did that because I like you know, when we discuss ideas, a lot of times I just like seeing them done.
oh yeah,
You know, like when Judd, I don't know if Judd's still listening, but Judd, if you remember, you did the shoot with Tim Conway. I couldn't. I was shattered because I couldn't because I had to
should
go.
do be.
Should do be. I had to go do something, and it was just like a family commitment or something like that, and I ended up not being able to do it. And I was like, "You have to do this idea. You got to hold." You know, Tim Conway always had that really funny, sad face, like. And
Yeah,
I said, "You got to get a balloon, like the happiest balloon color you could possibly pick, and have him hold it looking sad." And I just said, "You got to do that because that's what I wanted to do, and I couldn't do it." He did it, and it was just went over like gangbusters, and I'm just so glad he did it.
yeah.
And yeah,
Well, what's amazing is about the commitment to getting that shot. You know, me and my son were driving to Austin, and from Nashville, that's a 13-hour trip.
yeah,
So I was there to see my dad. I contacted the Bluegrass Band. I photographed them while I was in Texas, and I photographed Ron Funches. The only idea I had for Ron was that straw thing. Now, when I got there, I saw a microphone. My son suggested that he uses it like a phone or have it upside down. So we played with the microphone. But what I did was we stopped at a Dunkin' Donuts,
yeah.
65 miles north of Waco. That's how committed I was to this shoot.
Wow.
Of course, I was going to stop at Dunkin' Donuts anyway. Let's face it. So I got what I needed for me, but then I got 2 giant orange straws
Yeah,
because the background that I chose was orange. So before Ron got there, I put up the background. I got a glass of water from the bartender. Had a lemon in it, which I kicked out,
right.
and put this giant orange straw in there. So then you got Ron. And he's just like chasing it with his mouth, and he's laughing the whole time. It's such a great shoot. But showing Dan Cummins the straw shot, Adam Conover, and some other things, he just quickly agreed. And, that shot of Dan is leading me to shoot another comedian the next month or so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say his name because he may see this and bail. But I'm looking for it, buddy.
Totally.
But
You know what? That's better than the shoot I did with Dana Carvey. That's the only other comedian I ever worked with. And,
yeah,
that's disappointment.
That sucked, man.
Everything about that shoot was a disappointment. Like me shooting, I don't remember if you remember, but I shot in high speed accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
He just was unfriendly. I thought I was going to be funny and mention Spinal Tap, his very first movie he was ever in. Bring that up, nothing. Lead balloons, lead balloons, lead balloons. And I think you and I talked a lot about this, and we were talking about how a lot of these guys just save it for the stage, man. When they're off the stage, it's not that they're not trying to be funny. I think they think they're not around funny people. I've heard Seinfeld say this before. I only like hanging out with funny people. Or I only like hanging out with comedians is actually what he said. And I get that. Maybe that's what that is. But, man, I sure felt like the lesser person in that situation. And I tried to get him to laugh, lighten up, do something, nothing. I wasn't saying be funny, but I was definitely like going, hey, let's bring something. He did not want to do it. He didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I do remember that shoot. I got something good out of it. I shot behind the stage, and he walked between me and the lights. So I got a great shot of him on stage, but it sucks that you missed a great opportunity because, he didn't give you much to play with, and that
No,
sucks.
he did not. He did not give us much to play with. And I was so excited about shooting Dana Carvey or photographing Dana Carvey. And then I was more excited about shooting him. Not with
Literally.